Number 1, Loki. Episode 5, Journey into Mystery. Loki awakens in the void, a place where variants go. And is really fucking originally named the Void. Way to go, Marvel. A place where variants go after they've been reset or pruned. He meets 4 other Lokis who explain that he must avoid a giant smoke monster named Eliath to survive. They take him to their hideout where he concocts a plan to kill Eliath. He's about to leave when another band of Lokis arrive. As they all backstab each other, a Loki battle royal ensues. And the main Loki escapes with classic Loki, Gator Loki, and Kid Loki. He meets Sylvie, who pruned herself after she was tricked and ambushed by Ravenna Renslayer, and Mobius, who rescued Sylvia from Eliath. She believes she can enchant the smoke monster with the help of the other Lokis. Mobius heads back to burn down the TVA while Loki and Sylvie, with an assist from classic Loki, enchant Eliath and begin to proceed into a mysterious medieval castle that is beyond the void. So what did you think of this episode?
I thought this was like a classic, like penultimate episode where we bring a lot of stuff and, to get us to that point. And, you find out that, there's a point where Loki's are stronger than he realized. Like the original, the Loki we know, Tom Hiddleston Loki, in this Tom Hiddleston Loki, precisely. They find out they're stronger. He realizes he can, enchant. He sees classic Loki, build this whole city to trick Eliath to get him off the scent. And I thought that was like a cool penultimate thing. I love the scene where all the Lokis are backstabbing it. And Janie put it perfectly. She said it was like when in the original Batman TV series, when all the villains would come in and like chaos would happen with the music and everything. So I thought that was a lot of fun. There wasn't a ton of like actual action in this, just because, like I said, I think it is that build up to that final episode, which will have, I assume we'll have a lot of action and a lot of, answers, because we've been told that this plays a major role in the Marvel universe as we see it, the MCU. And right now we don't really know. There's nothing here that's telling me anything, which I think is good, because you want that last episode to kind of divulge all those secrets. And, it was good having Mobius back in the picture, driving his pizza car. And I just thought it was one of those episodes, like, it was okay to me, but it was basically what I was expecting, because I was expecting a lot of build up to hit us into the final episode. Not like, you don't want this to be crash and burn, all this stuff, bunch of crap happen, and then we hit a final episode that kind of falls short of that expectation. So I think it wasn't my favorite episode, but I thought it was kind of the perfect episode to head us into the final one, personally.
Yeah, I thought the music was good.
Yeah, the music was good. I thought the music actually was rad. The rest of the show was whatever.
Yeah, the music was good. Here's where I'm kind of at with this, is like, I think that this show, maybe more so than the other two that we've seen so far, relies upon the main character being a like very popular, Loki's very popular, a very popular established MCU character versus kind of a third or fourth tier Avenger, as we saw with WandaVision and then Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Loki, while not an Avenger, although they put out some fucking bullshit press release where they're like, Loki's an Avenger from the MCU. I think it was the Russo brothers. They're like, Loki's an Avenger. It's like, well, he's not.
Not ever.
Trying to, I mean, maybe at one point in the comics, who knows? I mean, like you'd said, the comics are crazy. There's a run of Captain America where he's a Hydra agent. So the comics are nuts. So I'm not ruling that out. But if we're talking about just straight up MCU Loki, more often than not, he's a bad guy.
Right.
Let's be real. And especially
he did try to destroy the Avengers right before this series takes place. So.
This is the version of him that called an army of aliens to New York City. as he says in the episode, he's not even sure how much this time has passed since that. Time passes differently in the TVA. It could have been days. It could have only been hours. You don't know. So, but in relying so heavily on Tom Hiddleston and the character of Loki, I think that the story suffers from just flawed storytelling in a lot of ways. Was I excited to see Mobius? Absolutely. Owen Wilson's awesome. They've got great chemistry. Yeah. How did he get there? I mean, we know that he got pruned and he got sent to the void, but how did he escape the smoke monster? How did he acquire the pizza truck? How did he do anything? To me, it was just like, there's been little like nitpicky things in every episode with storytelling that, to me, it's not a nitpick anymore. It's just that this show suffers from inconsistent storytelling.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that. I also think that one of the great things about this show is the flaw too, is like you said, this is a character that was really well liked as a comic book character because it comes from this is an actual character beyond Marvel. So You're taking this character. He is an extremely popular character in the comic books. Whether it's the Thor or Avengers or whatever, and then you take him and it's Tom Hiddleston, who's actually like a really good actor doing this as well. And you have this build up with everything. And I think of all the shows, when you talk to probably most Marvel fans or most MCU fans, which is different, I think a lot of people said this was going to be like, they thought this was going to be the best show out of let's say the first three. And, I'm going to love it. It's Loki. And I like it fine. I think as of right now, it's my third favorite of the three. It's like you said, it is the storyline. It is the storyline because when the show's funny, when it hits its funny notes, I do really like the funny notes. And, it tries to be the sort of like romantic thing or whatever. I don't think we needed that.
Well, I think that's actually the one aspect of the story that I feel has been the most consistent and B, the most interesting, because let's face it, it's Loki falling in love with himself.
Right. Which is
if he was going to fall. Yeah. Yes. If he was going to fall in love with anyone, who would it be? Cap has Peggy, Iron Man has, Tony has Pepper, Thor has, I just watched that movie. What the hell is her name?
I was for Natalie. Yeah, Jane. It's so easy.
Foster. Yeah. But Loki, and we've said like the whole thing about Loki's bisexual and Loki's gender fluid. And it just because of the narcissistic traits, who does Loki love more than himself? And then now he's given a personification of that. And so I do think that has been one of the more interesting aspects of the storytelling. It's just that I feel like a lot of the other characters, which there's really only 4 characters in this. There's Loki, there's Mobius, there's Sylvie, there's Ravenna Renslayer. I feel like Mobius and Ravenna Renslayer's stories are like, I know they want some intrigue or whatever, but I feel like the Judge Renslayer character has just been completely underdeveloped. And now this in itself is also kind of becoming a theme for these shows, because I felt like the John Russell character was underdeveloped, or at least underexplained. And the whole aspect of, and not to beat the dead horse about the end of that show, but how he, like, they fought him and tore the shield off of his arm. And then he shows up with, his homemade cosplay Captain America shield. And Bucky's like, I guess he's on our team now, like without thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think some of these secondary characters need further developed in these shows. Now, that wasn't the case with Agatha, obviously. And that's why I kind of go back to, we don't know what's going to happen in the last episode. And as you said last week, we're not going to really rank these until we see the end, because the end could completely blow us away. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But as of right now, for me, number one is clearly WandaVision. It's clearly WandaVision. It was so unique, so different. And then it's kind of a coin flip between Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier. So what really could make this stand apart versus Captain America or Falcon and Winter Soldier is who does that castle belong to? Now, I'm going to give you two options. I think the easy one's Kang the Conqueror, multiverse bad guy, timeline bad guy, and we've gotten confirmation that he's going to be in Ant-Man 3. So that's the safe bet, right? I guess I give you three options. So that's the safe bet. The number two bet is the field, right? It's just the field. Yeah. It's whoever. It's just the field. Maybe it's somebody that, you know, we haven't thought of. Here's the one that would blow us, especially you and me, away because we've talked about it.
Right.
Is what if that's Castle Doom?
That's what I thought it was whenever, you know, we see it. You know, I was just like, I didn't say it out loud. It's just like, I'm just, you know, Jenny's not going to know what I'm talking about. But I was like, there's Doom. Like, I was just like, this is, to me, that's what it is. So. I mean, if it is, then this series goes from like 3-1. Yeah, I mean, honestly. It's like that's all it really. I know that sounds trivial and ridiculous,
it's
but
not.
If you're a Marvel person, and this is more being a Marvel person than being an MCU comics, person.
Yes.
Yeah, the comics. If you get Doom, which like, and you know, if maybe this is for whatever reason the first time you listen to it, Doom is the best villain in the Marvel universe.
He is.
He may not be the strongest. He may not, you know, he may not be destroying planets. He's the best. It's honestly not close. To me, for me at least.
No, I'm in that camp with you.
And so if it is Doom, and if this is the thing that changes the universe, the MCU, and is the reason why this show is so important, boom, rocket ship straight up. This is going to be a game changer. I really hope it is. I think it has to be, you know, Doom or Kang. Otherwise, what are you doing here at this point? That's my, you know, Kang would be cool.
Like, honestly, if it's not one of those two, then this show has been a waste of time. Like, I'm just gonna be real.
The TVA screwed that up.
Yeah, it's well, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, no pun intended. But that's the thing is, like, here's the other thing, and I want to read this question. And so I'm in these Facebook groups, right? Or these social media groups and everything for you know, Marvel and Star Wars and a lot of the stuff that we talk about. And that's where I get, you know, some of these questions or, you know, some of the news topics or whatever. But I saw this and it really was like interesting to me, is because of how it relates to everything. Was Wanda creating Vision, Wiccan, and Hex a violation of the sacred timeline or of the TVA? And I found that to be an interesting point. I kind of followed the thread a little bit. Some other people were saying, well, they only existed inside the Hex. And so, or Speed, not Hex for the kid, Speed and Wiccan. They only existed inside the Hex. So no, it wasn't a Nexus event that would have needed. But when I was reading this question, what it really brought to mind to me, or really brought forth as a question moving forward, is they're saying that this show has major implications for the MCU moving forward in terms of what the next several phases or whatever are going to be. I have a fear now for the first time, and we've talked about it. We trust in Marvel until they give us something bad. But I have a fear for really the first time that this could be the beginning of the end for the MCU. And what I mean by that is that when you start messing around with timelines and stuff like that, and the rules are fast and loose, there's going to be a lot of questions like this pop up. Like, well, I mean, you know, they brushed aside basically Loki saying the Avengers literally went back in time. You know, I know two Tony Starks. I know the smell of cologne of two Tony Starks in the first episode. There's just going to be, I feel like this is going to create the potential for a lot of plot holes. And so they have to be very careful moving forward with this.
Yeah, I mean, as much as like I've talked to people and be like, man, you know, if it's going to be like a timeline thing and every, you know, it is just going to lead to like the more stuff you have going on with anything, whether it's TV, television, anything, being a, whatever, just in everyday life, the more things you have going on, the more chances mistakes will happen. And, up until this, I mean, you could argue, other than, Thor, Dark World, it's been pretty flawless for,
Right.
of course you can nitpick anything,
Yeah.
but for the most part, pretty seamless, pretty flawless production on these things. And I don't want it to be too much, because like I've said, the thing that I've always kind of liked is when you have you got the space stuff, but I always like when things are grounded, because at least that seems real. You know what I mean? As real as something can be. And once we start if everything turns out to be space and there's all these timelines, it will be hard to follow.
Right.
Even for people because the comic books are sometimes hard to follow, but at least you can go back and reread something or whatever. And that's kind of the joy of comic books, but they get super weird. I don't want these movies to get super weird.
No.
I want these movies to still have some sort of, I know this sounds just weird, but sometimes you just need the Captain America plot.
Straightforward,
yeah. On the ground.
These are the bad guys. We're going to beat them up.
Yeah. His superpower is he's just the strongest living human.
Right.
That's, and if it goes too far out there and everything is Guardians and everything is out in space, I don't think that's, and I say this for one main reason is no one gave two craps about Guardians of the Galaxy until that movie was awesome. But nobody cared. But I'm just saying, I'm saying the greater, I don't necessarily, but what I mean is that it was awesome for the MCU.
Right.
I think the movie's fine, but it was awesome for the MCU. They took a major chance on that because nobody cared. That comic discontinued.
Right.
And, and that's the thing, because it may have got a little too wild. I don't want this because, as someone who absolutely loves this, why we talk about this. I love the MCU and I love everything up through Endgame. It's Dark World. But, it's just this is my fear about this. But we don't know. And we have Black Widow coming out. That movie is just going to be kind of it basically just fills a gap. It's not, I don't think it's going to be super important going forward, but then we do start to get important movies.
Well, I think,
and we'll
at
see
the
what
very
happens.
least that Black Widow will be important because it establishes a new Black Widow.
Right.
Or so we assume at the very least, but I don't know. I'm just kind of, I don't know. We talk about two topics that we talk about. This is episode 42 of this podcast, not including the extra episodes, and we've had over 50 total. We talk about Marvel and Star Wars in all of them.
Yep.
More or less, you know what I mean? There might have been an episode here or there that didn't contain something from one of the two, but by and large, and as much as I shit on a lot of Star Wars, especially Disney Star Wars, it's always going to be the number one thing for me.
Sure.
Just going back to my childhood, right?
Yep.
And I know everybody has, by and large, everybody has liked WandaVision, Loki, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But I'm here to tell you that none of those three shows could carry the Mandalorian's jockstrap. And that's just a fact. And I know we talked about it, that part of it is who's running those shows. I mean, you have the person who's running Loki's never run a show before. This is their first go around doing anything, basically. They took a chance on her, and there's been some good things, definitely. Yeah. But there's also been, like I said, inconsistent storytelling, boring at times. And, it is what it is. And, you know, I hope that the last episode blows us away, and I hope that it's Doom, but I feel like it's not going to be. And that's like, I guess this is the other aspect of this for me, is that phase one, not as much up until Avengers. And then everything after that did such a good job of managing people's expectations, because we all knew where it was headed. You know what I mean? We all knew that it was headed towards Thanos. And so I think in a way it kind of subverted expectations, because it's like, okay, well, we're not going to get Galactus. We're not going to get Kang. We're not going to get any of these like huge end game level bad guys. But now and obviously I would say part of it's been the pandemic, because they wanted to get a lot of this stuff out quicker.
Right.
But they're just letting these theories run wild on the internet. And but the real problem is that everybody, like the meme, like Mephisto is Mephisto. You know what I mean? And then he never shows up. And I feel like a lot of people were upset about the expectations not being met. And then this is another thing. It's like they show this castle, and seasoned Marvel people are going to be like, well, that looks like a medieval castle with a greenish tint to it. Hopefully it's Doctor Doom. And then when it's not, it's going to be a letdown. You know what I mean? And so
I don't think I will say it won't be a letdown if it is Kang. Because Kang is he is a great villain. And we know eventually we're going to get Doom back.
Right.
It will maybe be a letdown to us, and to like the smallest degree. But there are people out there that, you know, if it is Kang, and that's where the internet seems to be going towards, even though, you know,
timelines. I mean,
but but the internet has been so wrong and all this stuff. So it's on all of it. So I'm not going to be surprised if we're
it's probably like fucking, it's probably like Thor. It's probably like Thor's castle. I will throw something. Like, I swear to you, I will throw something.
I'll throw a hammer.
I'll throw a yes.
All right. We'll move on. Next week, we'll recap the last episode and we'll see what happens. Hopefully we both come away looking right. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Let's be right for once.
Yeah. Well, we'll also have Black Widow next week. We'll have a little Black Widow review. We haven't had a movie review in a while.
No, Brendan and Greg at the movies. Are you watching it at home?
I hope to watch it. I hope to watch it in a theater.
We're seeing a movie tomorrow night, which I'll get into next week on the media recommendations. The movie's gonna be awesome. But so we'll see. Maybe we'll do back to back. No, Zola.
You don't need Zola when you got family.